A labyrinth, by a definition, is a complicated network of connecting passages in which it is difficult to find one's way. In the ancient world, the labyrinth was used to describe what in our modern times today we refer to as a maze. A maze is not the same as a labyrinth. Maze can be frustrating, frightening, and challenging because of many confusing paths and dead ends, purposely obscuring the route to the finish. A lot of us have this idea that life is like a maze, where we make mistakes and fix them, where we make wrong choices somewhere along the way, where we could get lost entirely. We all live in the maze we call life. A labyrinth, unlike a maze, has no dead ends. There is only one path, and while it does have its twists and turns, we can't get lost in it. Essentially, one single path is leading to the center, and there is no other way to go. Perhaps you are also looking for that one path, a path to guide your existence to its ultimate, to its true goal. In the maze of life, many people have reached a dead end with regards to everything material life has to offer. And many are now looking for something completely different, completely liberating. Labyrinths symbolize that journey of life from birth to the spiritual awakening. Lao Tzu spoke of Tao. Buddha spoke of the Eightfold Way. The Bible speaks of the narrow path. And Jesus said to his disciples, "You know the way." The key to the Gnostic path is faith. That is the true union of the spirit spark atom in our hearts with the divine, pure light. When this gate has been opened and the new power enters our system, we are ready for the path of renewal. We have no option but to approach this path with our ordinary intelligence. But by continuing to follow the transfiguristic path of self-surrender, we'll need to become ignorant with respect to that knowledge, to become aware that our mind is not always our ally, and to develop a new cognitive faculty, the cognitive faculty of wisdom. In Greek mythology, the labyrinth, or rather the maze, was a confusing structure designed by Daedalus to hide half-man, half-bull monster the Minotaur, preventing him from ever finding his way out. Monsters are often pictured as guardians of the treasure, and they must be slayed in order to escape, or slayed to bring the treasure out. In our own labyrinths, the mind is the slayer of the real, as it is said in the book, The Voice of the Silence. Mind does not, of course, literally slay anything. Rather, this means that the mind often acts as a barrier to deeper insight, to deeper perceptions of life. And the real here refers to the true reality, to the true real, to the spiritual reality. Argentinian writer Borges wrote that the library is like a labyrinth. We all know how in libraries we see long rows of bookshelves with a number of paths and aisles between them, and the classification of the text that the reader must decode in order to find the book. But suppose you had read all the literature in the world, and imagine that you have a very good memory and can clearly remember everything you've read. Now the question is, would that knowledge bring us any closer to the inner core of things? External knowledge does not give access to that inner core of things. It is imperfect. It is not capable of being absolute. Such a knowledge will never make us wise, because to be wise means to know and to understand, but inwardly. No learning, no study, no knowledge can prepare us for the absolute magnificence of the kingdom of heaven. Words cannot describe it. Music cannot express it. Pictures cannot portray it. There exists a golden thread which leads us out of the labyrinth of our broken reality and towards the truth. Most importantly, this golden thread is a path that can actually be walked, that can be approached by our own efforts and by persevering throughout all the obstructions and difficulties we encounter on our way. It is as following the golden Ariadne's thread.
In this maze or labyrinth of our lives, there are walls we have created or inherited and continue to create. This reminds us of the familiar story of the walls of the Jericho. The biblical narrative describes the city as having nearly indestructible walls, which were intimidating to anyone who tried to take the city. But after the 7 priests marched 7 times around the city, and when on the 7th day they blew the 7 trumpets, the walls of Jericho fell apart. 7 often represents completion or fulfillment, and the 7 trumpets, among other things, symbolize the 7 main energy centers known as chakras. In Sanskrit, chakra means the wheel. These wheels of energy, these vortexes of power, are located alongside our spinal cord. The quality of nourishment that can be assimilated by the chakras is determined by the consciousness. In our current state of life, human personality lives as an I-centered being, as an egocentric consciousness, and all its vehicles, physical, etheric, astral, and mental, are phenomena of time and space. If we try to develop the capabilities that are hidden or that lie in this personality by itself, without starting from the original point, without starting from the true center of the human microcosm, we will end up increasing the separation and the duality of human life. That is because every additional power we developed based only on the personality is just like adding another layer of bricks in this already massive wall of our labyrinth that separates us from the true reality. So that's why we must start from a totally different perspective. Because there exists an entirely different state of life. Kundalini of the heart, or the spirit spark atom, is not under the control of human consciousness, of human ego. It does not respond to the commands of an ego, and it cannot be awakened by exercises or practices. The spirit spark atom becomes awakened by itself. And when this center awakens, it enters in resonance with the very center of human consciousness in our heart, the center of the human soul. At that moment, all the personal goals, all our egocentric objectives lose their power. As we start to look for something different, for something deeper, then we start to listen to this voice of the silence that resounds in our heart. And with a new awareness that awakens in our consciousness, we will gradually start changing our lives. That change is not accomplished through a forced attitude, but through the yearning of the heart. Through self-knowledge, a new inner attitude towards life develops. The sound through the 7 chakras that will cause the walls of Jericho to fall apart. And after countless interactions, countless cycles of circulation through the sympathetic and parasympathetic system around our central spinal cord, a new serpent fire system is created. Our spinal cord, with the new system around it, becomes the main pillar of energy that connects the energy of our consciousness to our new state of being. The new state of being is the new state of life.
When this power from the rose of the heart is now circulating in you and is growing strong, it will start transforming in a permanent way the center of the head. This will now change the reality of your lives, because state of consciousness is state of life. This means that our daily life, our interactions with friends and family, with colleagues at work, will have a different basis, and a transformative power will subordinate all desires to the laws of Tao. We are now reacting to the universal law of radiation that is all-encompassing all of life. In this new life, in this truth, will be the result of an objective mind, a mind that is truly silent. In that moment, there is a unification of the heart and the head. And at that beginning of the unification, the mind will become silent, will become clear, and then you can start, maybe for the very first time, through an objective consciousness, to gain increasing levels of self-awareness. Once this approach to life has been established absolutely in you, the soul will be born, and step by step will enter into connection with the servant spirit. In this process, symbolically, we will march 7 times around the place called Jericho. It is the beloved place, known to us as the new life field. At last, after 7th time, the walls that separate us from the essence of renewal will collapse, and we will be free. So to conclude, friends, we can use the symbol of the school to approach the power of the silent mind. The point, the circle, the triangle, the square are all symbolisms on the path. When we start with the point in the middle, it is the connecting point with the light. This is the basis from which all transformations must occur. It is the basis that will change our entire life. It is the basis that will change our entire inner world. From this inner basis, you can connect the whole of manifestation, which is the circle. And from that, the fourfold personality, which is the square. Humanity then can be transformed, and the 3 new soul principles can be born, the triangle. When the force from that point awakens in our being, it unites with the consciousness, then we will have the source of support so powerful that Archimedes said we will be able to move our entire inner world. This new force is the sun that rises on the horizon of our consciousness. Yet at first, we see only the dark mountain outlined in our present state of being. In this new force, enclosed are the 3 principles of the universal logos, which will one day be manifested as the 3 new superior vehicles of the immortal being within us. And even at the beginning of the path, this new force, which emanates directly from the spirit spark of the heart, has the ability to light the way. Like flashes of lightning, it sparkles of light and illuminates the mirror of our consciousness. This new force is the pulse of the spirit spark in our hearts. This new force is the power that pushes us on the path. This new force is what has made us seekers of truth. It is the new force that will not let us give up on our path, however many difficulties and obstacles we may find there. This new force is the seed and the principle of the higher mental body, the higher mind, the seed and the principle that allows us to see ourselves as hovering above the labyrinth of the repetitive circuits of the memory of the I consciousness. The path of joy opens the gateway to the infinite. Having found the path and entered, we hear for the first time the voice of the silence, the voice of the true master, the voice that will from this moment on act as a guide to the soul. And once the new soul is born, it will set the intellect free. The mind can then soar to great spiritual heights. And as we continue on the path of truth, once we continue to find inner peace and tranquility, all the noise will slowly begin to fade away. Holding the golden thread firmly, the maze becomes a solved puzzle, and the surrounding walls of the labyrinth form an illuminated path forward. Will leave behind the dusty roads in the maze of life. All illusions, all fears are left behind.